In the high-stakes world of global construction, there is a saying, "The concrete never lies." You can have the most expensive architects in the world, the fanciest software, and the biggest budget, but if the physics of the building are wrong, the earth will eventually reclaim it. This is a story about a massive $500 million project in the heart of Dubai, a luxury hotel meant to be a symbol of modern perfection. But more than that, it is a story about a brilliant Korean engineer named Mr. Park and a humble Filipino engineer named Lito. It is a story of how one man's arrogance almost destroyed a landmark and how another man's Diskarté saved it. Welcome to Global Prime Stories, where powerful real-life inspired stories reveal the strength, dignity, and excellence often hidden behind ordinary people. If you believe respect should never be judged by nationality, consider subscribing and joining our growing community. Now, this is the story of the mistake that changed everything. The year was 2024. A top-tier Korean construction firm, Seoul-Build, had just won the contract of a lifetime. They were tasked with building the Aurelia Tower, a 100-story glass monolith designed to look like a shimmering flame in the desert. The lead engineer, Mr. Park, was a legend in Seoul. He was a man of cold logic and high-precision calculations. He had built stadiums in South Korea and massive bridges in Japan. He believed in the Korean way, a system of absolute hierarchy, rigid adherence to blueprints, and a belief that only engineers from elite tech nations truly understood the soul of a skyscraper. But Dubai is not Seoul. The desert is a brutal teacher. The board of directors at Seoul-Build knew that building in the Middle East required a specific kind of experience. They suggested hiring a senior site engineer from the Philippines to manage the day-to-day operations on the ground. They knew that Filipino engineers are the backbone of the Middle East's infrastructure. They are known for being resilient, adaptable, and incredibly creative when things go wrong. Enter Lito. Lito was a veteran structural engineer from Quezon City. He didn't have a PhD from a famous university, but he had something much more valuable: scars. He had spent 15 years building bridges in the typhoon-swept provinces of Luzon and managing high-rise projects in the shifting sands of Saudi Arabia. He had worked in places where the electricity went out twice a day and where materials arrived late or broken. He didn't just know how to read a blueprint, he knew how to feel the materials. He knew how concrete breathed and how steel expanded in the sun. When Lito first arrived at the Seoul-Build headquarters in Dubai, the atmosphere was clinical. The office was bright, white, and cold. Mr. Park didn't even stand up to greet him. He kept his eyes fixed on a 3D model on his monitor. He took Lito's resume, glanced at it for 3 seconds, and tossed it onto a pile of random papers. "I have seen your file," Mr. Park said, his voice flat. "You have worked on small projects in the provinces and some basic towers in Riyadh, but this is an Aurelia Tower. This is a Korean project. We use the most advanced chemical retardants and high-precision sensors in the world. I don't need your creative ideas or your experience. I need you to be my eyes on the ground. You make sure the workers are on schedule. You make sure the site is clean. You are essentially a foreman with a degree. Do not question the blueprints and do not suggest changes. Do you understand?" Lito felt the sting of the insult, but he remained calm. In Filipino culture, there is a deep respect for authority, but there is also a quiet strength. "I understand, Mr. Park," Lito replied. "I am here to serve the project." As the construction moved into its most critical phase, the pouring of the massive support pillars for the 40th to 60th floors, the Dubai summer hit with a vengeance. The temperature stayed at 45 degrees Celsius even in the shade. The sun was so bright it felt like it was cutting through the skin. On a site like this, the concrete mix is everything. If it dries too fast, it becomes brittle. If it stays too wet, it loses its strength. Mr. Park was under immense pressure from the investors to stay on a hyper-fast 18-month schedule. He ordered the team to pour the primary support concrete during the peak afternoon hours. He believed the expensive chemical additives they imported from Korea would protect the mix from the heat. Lito spent his days walking the site. He didn't stay in the air-conditioned trailer. He touched the forms. He smelled the wet cement. One afternoon, he noticed a strange sheen on the surface of a freshly poured pillar. He took a digital thermometer and pressed it against the wood. The internal temperature was skyrocketing. He rushed to Mr. Park's office. "Sir, we have a serious problem. The core temperature of the grade A pillars is reaching 70 degrees. The chemicals are keeping the surface wet, but the inside is cooking. When concrete dries this fast in this heat, it creates thermal cracking inside the core. We can't see it from the outside, but the pillar will be hollowed out by microfractures. We must stop the daytime pours immediately. We need to switch to night shifts, and we must use ice-chilled water to lower the mix temperature." Mr. Park didn't even look up. He let out a short, dry laugh. "Lito, I have a PhD from Seoul National University. I have studied the molecular structure of this cement. Our Korean lab has tested these additives for temperatures up to 50 degrees. You are worrying about problems that belong in a village, not on a $500 million site. You are a foreman. Go back to your clipboard and stop trying to teach a master how to paint." Lito tried to explain that the lab in Korea didn't account for the unique humidity and wind of the Dubai coast, but Mr. Park had reached his limit. He stood up and pointed toward the door. "I hired you to be obedient, not to be a scientist. Your provincial fears are slowing down my project. You are dismissed from this office, and by the end of the week, you are dismissed from this company. We will find someone who understands how to follow a schedule." Lito was crushed. He was escorted off the site like a criminal. He had tried to save the building, and he was treated like a nuisance. He took his small savings and flew back to the Philippines. For a few months, he sat in his home in Quezon City feeling like a failure. But Lito was a man of action. He decided to use his time to help his own people. He started a small consultancy called Pillars of the East, helping local communities build small bridges and schools that could survive the strongest typhoons. He was happy, but he always looked at the news from Dubai with a heavy heart. 6 months later, the Aurelia Tower reached the 80th floor. It was a stunning sight. The glass was catching the golden light of the desert sun, but inside the walls, the concrete was starting to tell the truth. During a routine laser alignment check, the engineers found something terrifying. The building was leaning, only by 4 centimeters, but at 80 stories, 4 centimeters is a death sentence. When they opened the walls of the 40th floor pillars to investigate, they found exactly what Lito had predicted. The core of the concrete was shattered. The thermal cracks had turned the support pillars into brittle sponges. The weight of the floors above was literally crushing the center of the building. The project was halted instantly. The Dubai Building Authority declared the site a danger zone. The investors were in a panic. Every day the site was closed, the company lost $500,000. The European experts they flew in gave a grim diagnosis. The building is structurally compromised. The only safe way forward is to demolish the top 30 floors, replace the core, and start over. This would cost the company $50 million and likely lead to its bankruptcy. Mr. Park sat in his dark office, his head in his hands. His PhD, his formulas, and his arrogance had led to a disaster. He had no solution. The Korean way had failed because it refused to listen to the site way. In a high-level emergency meeting, the CEO of SeoulBuild, a man named Mr. Choi, was flipping through the project archives. He found a document that had been filed and ignored months ago. It was Lito's warning report. It contained photos, temperature readings, and a clear prediction of exactly the failure they were now facing. "Who is this man, and why isn't he here?" the CEO asked, his voice trembling with anger. When he realized Lito had been fired for writing that very report, the CEO was furious. He didn't care about Mr. Park's ego anymore. "Find him," the CEO ordered. "I don't care where he is or how much he costs. Find him and bring him back." The company tracked Lito down to a small village in Cebu where he was finishing a bridge project. When the call came, Lito didn't feel smug. He didn't celebrate. He felt a deep sense of responsibility. He agreed to return, but on one condition. He would have total control of the site, and Mr. Park would have to serve as his assistant. When Lito stepped back on the Dubai site, the sun was bright and hot as the day he left. But this time, the entire board of directors was there to meet him. Mr. Park stood in the back, his eyes on the ground. Lito wasn't wearing a fancy suit. He arrived in his old work boots, a faded high-vis vest, and his trusty notebook. The experts told Lito that demolition was the only way. Lito looked at the pillars, took his own measurements, and shook his head. In Philippines, we don't have the money to tear things down just because they are broken. If a bridge is failing, we find a way to make it stronger with what we have. We call it Diskarté. It's about being smarter than the problem.
Lito proposed a plan that seemed impossible. Instead of demolishing the floors, he would jacket the pillars. He designed a system of high-tension carbon fiber wraps combined with high-pressure epoxy injections. This would fill the micro-cracks from the inside out and create a new core that was 3 times stronger than the original concrete. To fix the lean, he used a specialized hydraulic jacking system that slowly redistributed the weight of the building as the new supports cured. For 3 months, Lito worked 18-hour days. He stayed on the 40th floor, sleeping in a small cot. He watched every pour. He monitored every injection. And this time, he used his ice water method, pouring only between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Mr. Park watched in silence. He saw Lito talking to the workers in a way he never had. Lito didn't bark orders. He asked the workers what they were seeing. He listened to the feel of the machines. Mr. Park began to realize that engineering wasn't just about math, it was about the marriage of theory and reality. Lito's plan worked. The building stabilized. The lean was corrected to within a fraction of a millimeter. The Aurelia Tower was saved, and the company avoided a $50 million disaster. The final cost of Lito's fix was less than $5 million. The day the building was officially cleared for completion, there was a small ceremony on the roof. The sun was setting, painting the Dubai skyline in brilliant shades of orange and gold. The CEO stood before the team and thanked Lito, calling him the savior of Aurelia. But the most important moment happened afterward. Mr. Park approached Lito. The 2 men stood looking out over the desert. "Lito," Mr. Park said, his voice quiet, "I spent my whole life thinking that a degree from a top university made me a better engineer than a man with a clipboard and dirty boots. I was wrong. I thought your Diskarté was just a word for cutting corners. I didn't realize it was a word for true genius, the ability to see a solution when everyone else only sees a disaster. I am sorry." Lito smiled and put a hand on Mr. Park's shoulder. "Mr. Park, your math is perfect, but the world is not a lab. In my country, we say that we are like the bamboo. We bend, but we do not break. You have the theory, and I have the grit. Imagine what we could build if we worked together." Mr. Park did more than just apologize. He resigned from his high-ranking position and moved to Manila. He joined Lito's consultancy, Pillars of the East. Today, they are the most sought-after engineering firm in Asia. They don't just build skyscrapers, they build bridges between cultures. They teach young engineers that while a PhD is good, humility is better. This story is a reminder to every business leader and every professional out there. Never dismiss someone because of where they come from or because they don't have a prestigious background. Talent is the most democratic thing in the world. It doesn't care about your passport, your accent, or your diploma. The next time you see a Filipino engineer, a nurse, or a teacher, remember Lito. Remember that behind that humble smile is a spirit of Diskarté that has been tested by fire, wind, and heat. And if you are like Mr. Park, remember that the biggest mistake you can ever make is thinking you are the only one with the answers. As we conclude this story, think about your own career.
Have you ever dismissed someone who had the answer you needed? Have you let your ego get in the way of a solution? If you've found this story of Lito and Mr. Park inspiring, please hit the like button. It helps us continue to share stories of unsung heroes and the lessons we can learn from them. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the world of business, engineering, and human resilience. What do you think? Should Lito have charged the company more, or was the partnership with Mr. Park the best reward? Let us know in the comments below. We read every single one. Until next time, stay curious, stay humble, and always keep building.